Ladies and gentlemen, early in the month of November, as a little adventure and partly to gain flying experience, I decided to fly from London to the Cape alone, a distance of approximately 8,500 miles. As I had no passenger and therefore room for extra luggage, I was able to take a cinematograph camera and supply a film with me, as I believed it was possible to take a film even though single-handed. Owing to international air regulations, I was unable to use my camera whilst crossing over Europe. Over Europe, the trip was uneventful, but when halfway across the Mediterranean Sea and 250 miles from land, I had the unnerving experience of finding that all my oil had leaked out of the engine. I struggled on, hoping for the best, and after a little over 3 hours of the worst experience I think I've ever had, I was overjoyed to see the African coast ahead of me. No desert ever looked more inviting than this, my first view of the Sahara, although I was not out of danger yet, for there was no sign of habitation until Alexandria was reached, when I can assure you I was mighty glad to see civilization again. Here I am over Alexandria and flying towards Aboukir, the headquarters of the Royal Air Force in the Middle East. At Aboukir, some mechanics were detailed to repair the oil leak, and here they are hard at work on my engine. This giant plane is a Vickers Victoria troop carrier and was used for the rescue of the women and children from Kabul at the time of the disturbances there. The mechanic in front is a 6-footer, so some idea of the size may be obtained. This is the interior and shows the seating accommodation and the pilot's cockpit. These machines are capable of carrying 25 fully armed and equipped troops at a speed of 100 miles an hour, somewhat effective weapon in times of disturbances among scattered tribes in the east. Here she leaves on a trip to Palestine. You will notice by comparing the mechanic on the top wing of this flying boat the immense size of this giant airliner. She is the city of Alexandria. Here she is, preparing to leave for Europe with passengers, mail and cargo from India to Egypt, and Egypt for London. Now she is off, and before her lies a 900-mile trip across the Mediterranean Sea to Athens. Repairs to my plane have been completed, and I am once again over Alexandria and off to Cairo. This is the peninsula of Montaza from a height of 6,000 feet. It is a forbidden flying area, and I was liable to prosecution for breaking regulations. Cairo is reached, and here's a bird's-eye view of the city. All visitors to Cairo must take a trip to the pyramids. The Great Pyramid is 450 feet high, and I promised an Arab 5 shillings if he could run up and down in 10 minutes. Here he goes. Here he is, nearing the top. A wonderful view is obtained from the top of the pyramids, and here is the Mina House Hotel, famous to tourists. And then again is the Sphinx, 450 feet, lying below us. When I promised the Arab 5 shillings, I thought my money was pretty safe, but I found I was mistaken, for he did the trip in 9 minutes. He was not a young man, as can be seen by this picture as he poses for the camera with my dragoman. I next turn my attention to the Sphinx on the ground. One of Egypt's greatest attractions is the beauty of its gorgeous sunsets. As the sun sets, the Arabs offer an evening prayer to Allah, and I managed to obtain this film by secreting myself behind some large stones. What would the ancient kings of Egypt have thought could they have seen this latest invention of man? My next stop was Asyut, where I met with a mishap which unfortunately delayed me for some time. My moth ran away from me, and this is the damage which resulted. Whilst here, a squadron of Royal Air Force machines arrived from Khartoum on their way to Cairo. And after refueling, resumed their journey. An age-old method of irrigation is still in vogue in Egypt. Water is raised from the Nile canals and in this way diverted into furrows to water the cultivated lands bordering the great river. The Nile canals at sunset present a beautiful picture. I'm off again and on my way to Luxor and approaching the Valley of the Kings. Not much hope over this country in a forced landing. The Valley of the Kings is now below me, and the Nile is again reached just below Luxor. I could not pass Luxor without seeing some of its wonderful places of interest, and I first visit to the market, where one can buy anything from a reel of cotton to a camel. A great day this, and certainly the event of the month for the year. You can even have your head shaved. It must be a pain, for no water is used. Time has dealt with the gates of the temples of Karnak. Here are the remains of the gods, the relics of an ancient dynasty. Amongst the temples lies a sacred lake, the waters of which, for religious reasons, the Arabs will not touch. And my camera moves on to a panoramic view of the ancient temples and obelisks. Finally, I visited the famous Avenue of Sphinxes. And taking the air again, and once more over the desert on my way to Wadi Halfa. Leaving Egypt behind, Wadi Halfa in the Sudan is reached. An Arab guard has been placed over my plane. As I made my way to the landing ground at dawn to continue my journey, I could not resist taking a beautiful picture. With the aid of a wind almost amounting to gale force, I reached Khartoum in quick time. I took a trip up the river whilst at Khartoum, and the famous bridges are drawn to allow a boat to pass. The Royal Air Force are ever active in guarding Britain's interests in Egypt and the Sudan, and here are squadrons carrying out their daily exercises. A gale was still blowing when I left Khartoum, and in 3.5 hours had covered 400 miles and passed over Malacca. A further 400 miles brought me to Mongala, and here are some of the natives there. This woman is bent on protecting her child from the sun with an improvised sunshade made from a calabash. Some of the village bells posed for me in front of my plane. I landed at Tororo in Uganda, and in order to take off, had to have my plane transported to more level ground. The Uganda natives are superior to most African tribes. Note the fine features of this askari, or policeman. They certainly worked like niggers as they cleared away the ant heap for me to take off. As I took off, my axle broke, and in landing I turned a somersault. Repairs completed, I set off for Nairobi in Kenya Colony, passing over herds of wildebeest, zebra, and numerous other game. It is no easy matter controlling an aeroplane with one hand near the ground, whilst operating the camera with the other. As I approached Nairobi, I was fortunate enough to get this picture of a forest fire, and finding a suitable spot on which to land, obtained a ground view of this terror of the jungle, the enemy of man and beast.